All right. Welcome back to Baseball Scoops. It has been a while. Was a little under the weather. Now I'm good. Here to talk some ball. A few things obviously happened, over the holiday, like the unexpected signings of Munetaka Murakami and Kazuma Okamoto. And I just want to touch on those real quick. A little shocked about Murakami. Not so much the destination. I mean, the destination is shocking. I don't think anybody picked the White Sox to do it. But for me, I do think it's a good move for the White Sox. Like, what do they have to lose? It's a team that at least is actively trying to maybe get better. And I've enjoyed the fact that teams that you aren't expecting to sign guys like the White Sox, the Pirates, they're doing that. Look, if it works out, great. He can show and prove everybody wrong that, the things that maybe they were concerned of. I know Jeff Passan was talking about how other front offices were concerned about him struggling against velocity, the K rates. So if he comes in and has the right approach and basically defies the odds and expectations that maybe people are concerned about, he's going to enter at 27 free agency again, and he's maybe probably going to cash in a lot higher than what he did. So that's going to be really interesting to watch for. But I think it's a good move for the White Sox. The White Sox need a first baseman. He's going to play over there. I think their infield has a ton of upside. That's not including Colson Montgomery, Chase Mydroth. Like, those are really good players that if they take the next steps too, that's huge. So good for the White Sox in that regard. It's going to be really fun to watch. I mean, maybe it does make the White Sox a little more watchable, but the fact that he went there, obviously, maybe he didn't get the offers, obviously, that he wanted elsewhere, but it's a good move for the White Sox. And, if things don't work out, they can obviously flip him and get value. So we'll see what happens. And as for the Blue Jays just keep getting better. The rich keep getting richer. And, the deal is great, by the way. 4 years, $60 million. That's massive. I mean, for a guy, obviously, who could have got pegged to maybe make more, he didn't. So there's that. And I think, too, for him, it's important because he now is secured. He's 29 years old, so he's locked up at least until his 33 season, which is huge. No opt-outs, so the Blue Jays get a guy that can play third base, first base, any outfield position, so there's a lot of utility there. And what's crazy is it doesn't take them out of the Bregman sweepstakes like maybe people thought. They're still talking with Bo Bichette, still Tucker. So it does seem like they are going to get a big, big fish on top of all this. You can at this point deem them as winners. But when you look at Kazuma Okamoto, like, it's a player that I think his game is going to translate to the MLB level. Like, I think it's going to translate from Japan here. This is a guy in 2025. He had a 322 average, 15 home runs, 51 RBIs, a 992 OPS. He doesn't strike out. He generates walks. He's kind of the perfect fit for the Blue Jays, right? Because we see them. I've talked about it a ton. I love their approach at the plate as a whole for a team. Really contact-oriented, can hit for power. They don't strike out. They have the fewest strikeouts in the league. So they get a guy that literally fits the mold of what they do offensively. It really is truly the perfect fit. And they're not done. They really could get a Kyle Tucker. And people think, too, with Alex Bregman, like, where does he play? Well, it depends on their shift. They can shift guys around. I mean, your outfield, you still have guys you maybe can move around, especially if you get Tucker. He's probably going to play right. Addison Barger becomes a player now that kind of shifts. Maybe he's a utility guy too, because he could play infield, outfield. You're still going to have Varsho out there. I mean, Bichette's the most obvious one. He'll play second, and then you can kind of intertwine him and Clement. You never know who's going to be a DH. It's just they have so many guys. I mean, they have so many guys, and you can never have too much depth. And the Blue Jays are going for it. They smelt blood in the water. They got a taste of winning success, and they're just going to go for it. And that's the thing too. The other thing that I do want to bring up real quick before I get into the meat of what I want to talk about today is Ryan O'Hearn to the Pirates. I like what the Pirates are doing. They kind of, hear their starting pitcher and they heard him loud and clear, and they've actively at least tried. Now, granted, they were 30 million shy of landing Schwarber. They were never getting Pete Alonso, but they've at least tried. They ended Brandon Lau. He's a guy who's had 20-plus home runs the last 3 seasons. Great. You add Ryan O'Hearn, pretty steady bat. I mean, you look at just the last 3 seasons alone, he's done pretty well. I mean, he hit 289 in 2023, 281 in 2025. The slugging is there. I mean, you want to see him kind of cut down on the whiffs, the K rate, but he does a great job of walking, 10.7 K rate, good defense. So you have a guy who can reliably play first base. At this point, you're looking at guys who can hit. You have at least guys that can give you something at the plate, because that's what you need. I mean, you have the pitching. This is a pitching staff that had the 7th fewest earned runs, but they couldn't score. So at least when you add a guy like Lau and you add a guy like O'Hearn, you have the possibility of doing so. And I think that's what kind of leads me into this is, storylines to watch for. I'm not going to pick the cliche stuff. I'm not going to pick the things that are obvious, right? But there are things that I want to watch for. There's things that I'm curious about. It's not specifically just team related. It's player related. There's things I'm curious about. Obviously, I'm not going to pick something Aaron Judge related because Aaron Judge is arguably the best hitter on the planet, and anything he does is remarkable, and he's a gem to watch. But there are certain player things related. I do have a few team things, and then I'll kind of dive into some other things. So, top storylines that I'm personally excited to watch for. These are important, at least to me. Things that I'm looking forward to, not the cliche stuff. So the first thing is, will Tarek Skubal win a 3rd consecutive Cy Young? Obviously, that's not the story that everyone's talking about, because you know what? We're going to hear Tarek Skubal. Is he going to be traded? Is it this? Is he going somewhere now? Or are they going to hang on to him? Or the Tigers going to let him walk? We can talk about that until I'm blue in the face, because that is going to be a never-ending talking point, because he is arguably the best pitcher in baseball, and he's in the final year of his contract. Scott Boras is his agent. Are the Tigers going to pay him? Are they going to give him a contract? Are they going to do anything that makes sense? We can talk about this all day. Landing spots. I don't think they're going to change. I think it's going to be the big market teams. I do think it's going to be the Dodgers, the Mets, guys that have the capital to pull off the trade, but also the financial capital to pay him his market value. I don't think I think any team should be willing to trade for him, but are they going to pony up the money? Remains to be seen. But for me, I want to talk about, is he going to win a 3rd consecutive Cy Young? Because it's remarkable when you think about it. I mean, he won it in 2024 unanimously. He won the Triple Crown that year, 18 wins, AL best ERA with a 2.39. He led the league in strikeouts. Phenomenal stuff. He helped the Tigers clinch that playoff spot. I mean, that was impressive, because they had literally a 0.2% chance in August, and the next thing you know, they clinch a playoff spot and win a series against the Astros. And then you saw kind of the downfall of the Astros, where they trade Tucker, lose Alex Bregman. Kind of crazy how it happened. And then you kind of go to this year. A dominant season, but it was much, much closer, right? It wasn't unanimous. I mean, he beat out Garrett Crochet, not by a lot. And Hunter Brown also finished in 3rd, which those guys, very worthy of the award. But he became the first pitcher to win the award since in back-to-back years, since Pedro Martinez did it in 1999-2000. That's pretty rare company to be in. I mean, that's a long gap. That's 25 years without seeing a player win the award 2 years in a row. But he put together a really good season. 2.21 ERA. He had an 0.89 WHIP, 241 strikeouts, and his K-BB ratio was off the charts. Now, granted, Garrett Crochet led the league in strikeouts. To me, it came down to command, and the command was impeccable by Tarek Skubal. But for me, it's, can he win a 3rd? Because I think the competition is stiff. Hunter Brown, any given day can win. Garrett Crochet is near the top when it comes to pitchers in the American League. But then you have other guys too, like Max Fried could do it. Can Kevin Gausman, can he kind of go ahead and maybe have the kind of season he had this year, which was really good, really big bounce back year for him. Any pitcher on the Mariners staff any given day can probably win the Cy Young. I love Brian Wu. I think George Kirby, like very good pitcher. Logan Gilbert. If Cole Reagans has a dominant year, like he easily can. I know his season kind of got rattled by injury. So the competition is stiff. And nobody has won 3 straight Cy Youngs since Greg Maddux did in 1992 to 1995, where he won 4 in a row. That was the last three-peat for the award. So can Tarek Skubal do it? Can he kind of go ahead and kind of put himself in pretty elite territory and in an elite conversation? It's definitely doable. He definitely has the stuff. He definitely has the potential. He's arguably the best pitcher on the planet. Can he do it for a 3rd straight year? It's hard to do. Winning a Cy Young's hard, period, but to win 3 in a row is very impressive, especially given the stiff competition that he faced this season, where I do think you have a lot of guys that can kind of come in and make a little bit of a difference. So moving on, talking about teams that maybe have the most pressure in 2026, it kind of seems obvious, right? Like we're going to talk about, I think you talk about teams, it's just the easy ones, right? Like the Yankees. Okay. The Yankees are going to be under pressure to win right now because they haven't won a World Series since 2009. B, they've had 1 World Series appearance since 2009 where they lost in 5 games to the Dodgers. Their window is still open. The American League is very wide open, but how many more prime years of Aaron Judge do you have left? This team's not getting any younger. Granted, they've integrated some young pieces that you could see being building blocks for a little while, but at what point it does the pressure come off? And I don't think it's going to come off until they win a World Series. So we can talk. Obviously, that's just the obvious answer that the Yankees have the most pressure, and I think you can make a case for the Tigers. Like the Tigers do have to win, as because you don't know the future of Tarek Skubal. Like those are just easy answers. But I want to talk what playoff team, non-playoff teams have the most pressure going into 2026, and I have 2. And one's obvious. I'm going to start with the National League, and I think it's the Mets. I do, because when you sign a player to $800 million, you have nothing but pressure, and then you take out the fact that you lost your closer in Edwin Diaz, who very elite pitcher, really took very similar money to basically just go to the Dodgers because he wants to win. Then you don't pay Pete Alonso, and he goes to the Orioles. You trade Brandon Nimmo. Now, granted, I do think that trade really does work out for both sides. I think Stearns is preaching run prevention here, and that's what Semien does. His bat's been on decline, but he's arguably been the best defensive second baseman in the sport. Now, granted, there's moves they've made that are good. Like, I do like the addition of Luke Weaver. I know he had a tough year. It's kind of like a Clay Holmes-esque type year where he struggled a little bit, lost the closing role. He definitely dealt with injuries, and I think it hindered him. Devin Williams. I think Devin Williams is a very good signing, by the way. I do. I like the Devin Williams addition because I think his ERA isn't an indicator of what he did. This is a guy that was arguably one of the best closers in baseball from 2020 to 2024. Then he goes to the Yankees, and all of a sudden it goes up in smoke. But you look at this guy, and I'm going to share the screen with everybody because I don't think people quite understand how good Devin Williams really, really was. And that's what I kind of want to talk about because Devin Williams, to me, is a very good pitcher. And you look here, like his off-speed value, 95th percentile. But here's the stuff that's very important. I think this is the stuff that they valued. 97th percentile K rate, 99th percentile whiff rate, 97th percentile chase rate. Great extension. You kind of want to look at his stuff. His K rate was top 3% in Major League Baseball. and the walk rate went down. So he started the year pretty bad, but he ended the year really well. I mean, he didn't really throw the cutter at all. It was really the changeup and the four-seamer. The changeup was kind of getting teed off on, but he had success. 2 pitches north of 37% whiff rate. Like, that's impressive. That's good stuff. I don't know if he lost much movement on his pitches compared to the year before. I mean, not really. I mean, he actually added arm side movement, which is great. That's a huge, huge jump from, and I mean, it really wasn't as drastic as it is. I think he just ran into some bad luck, but he ended the year really, really well. And I know that's really not the toughest shoes. That's really some tough shoes to fill. Like, obviously closing for Edwin Diaz, like, not, that's a pretty sizable jump there, but I do think that the addition of those guys really pays off, but they need more. The Mets need more, and it's like, where do they go from here? The NL, I think, is a very loaded conference. I think you have a lot of teams. Obviously the Dodgers are the ones to beat, but you look at some of the other teams, like the Phillies aren't going to go away quietly. They're still going to do their thing. Then you look at the Central, and you have the Brewers, who just won 95 games, and then you have the Cubs, who they've made some decent additions. They obviously still need a little bit more, but the Cubs aren't going to go away quietly either. Can the Padres hit for power? That's the other team in the NL. That was a playoff team, but I think they're under a ton of pressure to win because they have a core that's in place. Their financial situation is a complete mess, but that is a team that struggled. They were bottom 5 in home runs hit in 2025, and you look at that offense, and it's like, how is that possible? But you have a core of Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill. I mean, even Xander Bogaerts had a fairly decent year. And you just have to hope that this core clicks. Their pitching is a major question mark, in my opinion. I mean, you're going into a year where you have Nick Pivetta, Joe Musgrove coming back from Tommy John. Yu Darvish is done for the year. So your rotation is really taking a hit. I mean, Michael King is back, which is enormous. They needed Michael King back. If he could bounce back to his 2024 season, that's massive for the Padres. But you look at the Padres, and there's so much pressure to win. And given their financial situation, it's hard for them to even want to spend and add. But that team needs to break through in the biggest way possible. I mean, their bullpen is still absolutely dynamite, but that team definitely needs to kind of get over the hump here, because it wasn't far removed when they were, a force in the playoffs. So hopefully they can get back there. But the Mets have plenty of upside with Nolan McLean, Jonathan, Brandon Sproat in their rotation, but they need a little bit more. I think they do need a key frontline starter, and they're in on Freddie Peralta. It would be baseball poetry for Stearns to reunite with Peralta, but have the financial backing of Steve Cohen to probably pay the guy. It would just be really funny to watch. This one's a little outside the box, right? I think this one is a little outside the box, maybe something that no one's thinking about. But for me, the pressure in the American League for a non-playoff team is the Houston Astros for me. I don't think the pressure is really on like the Texas Rangers, because they're undergoing kind of like a retool. I'm curious to see what guys bounce back, how they perform offensively. But for me, it's the Astros, because the Astros still have their core in place. Now, granted, they opted to trade Kyle Tucker, who's still out on the open market, by the way. Don't even know what his market even looks like. To me, he's either going to the Blue Jays or he's taking a very short-term deal with the Dodgers. Then you look at Alex Bregman. He's out the door too. So you look at this team that kind of underwent like a core change, and this is also not including that Framber Valdez is probably not coming back, and he's still in the open market too. But there's kind of another case, and I'll get to it in a second, but I want to talk about the Astros. Like, this is a team that missed the playoffs this past season. They got bounced in the wild card round the year before. And you kind of look, it's like Jose Altuve is 35 years old, coming off one of his worst seasons as a hitter. His 70-71 OPS was the lowest of his career since 2013. He slashed 265, 329, 442. you want to see him bounce back too. Like that's a very, very good hitter. Probably one of the best second basemen of this generation. You know, Christian Walker had an abysmal year. Jose Abreu-esque first baseman type season. And that's a guy who was a very big focal point of the Arizona Diamondbacks. But I also think a fully healthy Yordan Alvarez goes a very long ways. He only played 48 games, but this is a guy who's had 30-plus home runs each of the last 4 seasons. One of the most dynamic power hitters in this sport. Him being part of the fold goes a long way. And this is a team that still has Carlos Correa. They still have Altuve. You're hoping like Cam Smith can maybe take that next step. Christian Walker bouncing back is huge for them. I mean, I think they still need an outfielder. I still think they need another guy. It's going to be interesting. Don't know where that goes, but the Astros, I think, are under some pressure, and they did make a big splash. They got Tatsui Mai. He's got elite velocity, good swing and miss ability, good command, good secondaries. Like, there's a lot to work with. You slot him behind Hunter Brown. Like, that's a really nice front-of-the-line rotation there. But how much more open is this window? Is it closing, or, is this the start of, like, a new era? It's going to be really interesting, but I do think they are under a lot of pressure. I do think the Tigers are under a lot of pressure. That was a team that was a playoff team. I do think maybe the Orioles, is this the year that they finally break out, right? You got all this young talent. You traded none of them, by the way. So you still have, like, if Gunnar Henderson can return to MVP 2023 form, 2024 form, huge. Can Adley Rutschman kind of snap out of the funk that he was in? That's huge too. He had a very injury-riddled season. Can Jackson Holiday break out of his shell? You have a lot of promising young talent. Dylan Beavers is really, really good. You brought in Taylor Ward, 31 home run hitter last season. Pete Alonso's in the fold, another legit power bat. Samuel Basallo is going to have a full season with the club. There's a lot to love about the Orioles now. I don't know if I'd call it pressure, but I think there's going to be a lot more eyeballs on him or on this team in 2026. I do. New manager, which I think will go a long ways, by the way. So that's big. Moving on, I'm going to talk about something that I think is important because I think it does matter. Does Roman Anthony break out into superstar status? It's a lot of pressure to put on a young guy, 21 years old. But he is now the face of the franchise. The Red Sox traded Rafael Devers. And as I'm recording this, the Red Sox have not made a single really impact bat move. Now, granted, Wilson Contreras is part of the fold, but that's not super altering. Like, I like Wilson Contreras. I think he's a good bat, but that's not a Rafael Devers bat. So I think a lot of the pressure is really going to be put on Roman Anthony. You saw how the offense looked without him when he got hurt in September, and it just wasn't the same. And this is a roster that doesn't have Alex Bregman on it as it currently stands. So Roman Anthony really is the centerpiece and the nucleus of this Red Sox roster. And he showed plenty of promise. This is a guy who has very elite bat speed, makes hard contact, barrels the ball. It's a guy with a full season under his belt, can hit anywhere between 20 to 30 home runs. This is a guy who has great walk ability. He sees the ball very well. I think this is a player that's going to enjoy the ABS system. I think he's going to win a lot of his challenges. But this is a guy who showed a lot of promise. He was top 5 on the Red Sox in F4, which is huge. An 859 OPS, hitting 292 in a very short sample. Where he really got called up in June and basically missed all September. So he was big. If he blossoms into the superstar that the Red Sox do think he's going to be, sky is the limit. But I think too, as it currently stands, this offense will go as far as Roman Anthony can take them. I think he is going to be the centerpiece, whether he's the leadoff hitter or hitting anywhere, whether it's second or third in the lineup. Like, that's a guy that the Red Sox are going to lean on. And he showed what kind of bat that he could be, and I think it's really important to see how far he blossoms and how far he develops. And I think we're only seeing a player that just scratched the surface. I don't even think anybody has seen the full potential of Roman Anthony, and I think he's in for a very, very, very special season. And in a year, too, where he was third in the AL Rookie of the Year race. So to do what he did in such a short span is nothing short of impressive. So that's what I'm watching for. As a Red Sox fan, I am watching to see if Roman Anthony blossoms into superstar status, because I think the Red Sox are going to need him, and need him in the worst way possible. My last one, and I think this is special. I am very excited this year about the Rookie of the Year race. I think this is going to be a very special class. I think this is going to be a class where you're going to see a lot of interchanging between who's a favorite, who's not a favorite. And I know obviously that's cliche and that happens every year, but I think there's so many prominent names to watch for in this Rookie of the Year race for this year. I do. I'm very excited. So we're going to start with the American League, and I think it comes with Trey Savage. He is currently the favorite to win the award, but he is a very special player. He was my favorite pitcher to watch down the stretch. I love what he brings. His splitter is absolutely devastating. He absolutely made the Yankees suffer with that. And he showed the kind of pitcher he can be, which is massive. 36.3% chase rate during the regular season, 35.4% whiff rate, good strikeout rate. He just needs to work, obviously, a little bit more on his command, but massive, massive upside. His splitter is disgusting. It's a 57.1% chase rate or whiff rate, which is massive. It's his best put away pitch at 30.3%. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with and a staple to that rotation this year, which is very disgusting, by the way. So I'm very, very excited for him. I do personally think he's going to win the award. Obviously, we'll do a award predictions episode a little bit down the line. Too early for that right now. But he's not the only rookie. I think what could be impressive is Kevin McGonigal for the Detroit Tigers. That's going to be I'm very interested to see if he makes the roster. I do think it's very possible that he does. And if he does, that is a player to watch for. That is a very good baseball player. Looking at his prospects avant page, he doesn't strike out. 98th percentile K rate, 97th percentile hard hit rate. His exit velocities are phenomenal. He doesn't chase. He's got a good walk rate. He doesn't whiff. 92nd percentile. Huge power bat. He hit this year in AAA 235, 350, 353 with a 703 OPS, 105 WRC plus. Like, he is a great player, and it's going to be very exciting to actually watch him play this year. It's going to be really, really fun. He's got good pull rates, not so much in the air, but he does pull the ball on the ground a lot. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be really, really fun to see, because if he cracks that roster, he has a very good chance to be a Rookie of the Year candidate, and he's kind of a good bat that they probably do need in that lineup. So there is that. I do like Connolly Early as well. I do think Connolly Early is going to be a player that does end up making the Red Sox rotation. I think he gives them every reason not, to not say no, to be honest. He had good strikeout rates. He had good whiff rates, got players to miss outside the zone. He did very well, good enough in his playoff start. He went deeper than Brian Bayo, if that matters to anybody. But I do really like Connolly Early's chances to possibly be a Rookie of the Year candidate. I do. And then there's Peyton Tolley, but I do think Peyton Tolley is going to start in AAA to maybe work on some secondaries. But you look at some of the other names that are on this list. You have Carter Jensen with the Royals, who did have time. Good catcher, really good bat, good behind the dish. I think he's going to, he could have a chance. Samuel Basallo, too, obviously his first big league year. He's definitely part of this class. Chase DeLauder is another one. He obviously made his debut in the playoffs, which, obviously not ideal. Oh, that was McGonagall's single A stats. That wasn't even his triple A. Let me actually correct that to where I could see if he even did triple A. He didn't even make triple A this year, which is crazy. So that's on me. I read that wrong on Prospect Savant, but he did do very well in double A, hitting 254, slugging 550, the 162 WRC plus. Like he's a disgusting power bat. So it's going to be really fun to watch. Hopefully he does make the actual roster. But then you got the National League, and National League's great. You got Nolan McLean. He had a really good year. Was very impressive. His curveball is disgusting. Very good swing and miss ability. His sinker is also really vicious, very untouchable. But one player that I'm very excited to watch is Sal Stewart. Sal Stewart, first baseman, huge power bat. They need that in the worst way possible because that offense just needs every ounce of power you can think of. And he was really impressive. He hit 255 with an 839 OPS, 124 WRC plus. He definitely injected the power that they needed. Makes very hard contact, very good pull ability. A full season to him is going to be really, really huge. Very excited to see what he can do. He's very much in this race. Very excited to see what Bubba Chandler can do. Bubba Chandler is definitely going to be on this list. A full season of him. He finally got called up. It was just a matter of time. Obviously, you want to see if he can fully round things into form. The ERA wasn't great, 4.02, but this is a guy who has impeccable command, 3.2% walk rate, 25% K rate. He's got good whiff rates, good chase rates, fastball velos through the roof, 98th percentile. But you definitely want to see a little bit more from him in general. But his secondaries are great. Like his changeup and his slider did really, really well. Quite untouchable. 39.6% whiff rate on his changeup. The four-seamer definitely got teed off quite a bit compared to a lot of his other pitches. Curveball wasn't a great secondary. But overall, like he had a really nice debut, kind of round things into form. That Pirates staff is going to be something to really watch for. And I think too, JJ Weatherholt is the perfect player for the Cardinals. I think it's at this point you do need to bring him up. I know he's a shortstop. Find somewhere for him to play. This is a kid that is very good. Very good walk rate, 12.4%. Very good. He doesn't strike out, 15.1%. Definitely has great exit velocities, hard hit rates. He makes good hard contact. Doesn't chase outside the zone. Not a big swing and miss guy. He hit in AAA. I got this one right. He had 306, 408, 557, 965 OPS, 156 WRC plus. I think he's ready. I think he should have every chance to make the opening day roster. That's a young Cardinals team that needs every injection of youth possible. They need to figure it out. I think it's going to be really exciting. I think you'll see other guys like ascend. I think you'll be looking at like a Liam Doyle, Kyson Witherspoon. I think those guys are going to definitely be looking to ascend through the minor leagues. I also think another rookie too, if he makes the roster, is going to be Connor Griffin. And that's going to be pretty important. But without further ado, this is the end of Baseball Scoop.